Creepshow. Creepshow is my second favorite non-zombie George Romero film. My favorite non-zombie George Romero film, and when I mean non-zombie, I mean like the original Dead trilogy. Those three films are my favorite films, like the top three best films Romero's ever made. But after that, it would be Martin, and then after that, it would be Creepshow. I've known about Creepshow just about all my life. Like I remember, like I get flashes of memories of seeing the poster, like maybe seeing it first like on television, or at least the imagery, with the skull, the skeleton looking like something like the Grim Reaper, in the window and all that. I remember definitely seeing Creepshow, like in video stores and stuff like that, or at least I think I do anyway. But yeah, like Creepshow, I've known about the existence of the movie pretty much ever since I can remember for the most part. And but it took a long while for me to eventually see Creepshow. I didn't see Creepshow till I was about yeah, I was 12. I was 12 when I first saw Creepshow. When I first saw Creepshow, I first saw it on WPIX Channel 11. The most notable thing about watching it on there, besides the fact that I didn't watch it in its R-rated form. It was edited for broadcast TV, syndicated TV, whatever. Was the fact that like I knew going in there was gonna be like not as much blood, no obscenities, no nudity, no sex, none of that going in. Not that there is any nudity in Creepshow, at least the first one anyway, or any sex that I can remember at this moment. The thing that I noticed was that I knew Creepshow was over 2 hours, and they had put Creepshow in a 2 hour time slot. Now, if a film is 2 hours or even near 2 hours and over, it would be usually it would be put in a 2.5 hour time slot. To commercials and all that stuff. So when Creepshow aired, 2 hour film in a 2 hour time slot, I was concerned, like, okay, something's obviously going to get cut here unless they show no commercials, which of course they were never going to do an ad-free, airing of Creepshow without commercials on broadcast TV. So I remember watching it and being really into it, from the first frame. I was loving it, the first day. I'm sorry, the first story was of Father's Day. Um, you know, uh, Basically typical tale of I mean pretty much more than one of the tales. Two of the tales in Tales of Crypt deals with the dead coming back and getting revenge. That was a plot you would see quite a bit in the EC comics that Creepshow was based on. These dead or living dead, they were wronged, in their, I guess, previous life. Like, it was usually a situation where someone was murdered by, a bad person, whatever. Maybe it was to get the insurance, or I don't know, for whatever reason, they were killed unjustly, and they would come back from the dead and get revenge on the person who murdered them, and you would be rooting for the zombie to go and get their revenge on the person who did them in. In Father's Day, it was an asshole who had died, a piece of shit father who was just miserable to everyone, his children, the other people around him, and his daughter couldn't take his being a bastard anymore, and she killed him. And I thought, like, the guy definitely deserved it. But she did murder him though, and it wasn't like an act of self-defense. And the guy comes back, the father, and he gets revenge on his daughter. Kills her and kills other people as well. Yeah, so that's my only, I guess, I don't want to say gripe with Father's Day. It's like it's like you kind of, I don't want to say you're rooting for the bad guy, but like it's like the bad guy is getting justice, for something he doesn't deserve to get justice for. Like, he was a piece of shit. it's just kind of jarring watching like a revenge tale, which is usually done from the point of view of a good person getting justice, and seeing this story where an asshole is supposed to be getting justice, like a bad person, an awful person. Yeah, that's like the only like issue I have with that. Like why we're doing it from this point of view. But I think maybe maybe that's the point. Sometimes those who get revenge aren't good people, or people who've been, you know, justly wrong. And maybe the point of Father's Day is that sometimes that the people who get revenge are people who we don't want getting revenge. And that revenge overall, whether it's somebody who deserves to have revenge or not, is not a good thing. I don't know if it really runs that deep, but Father's Day is an awesome start to this awesome anthology. Following Father's Day is The Lonesome Death of George Romero. Geordi is played by Stephen King. Now, over the years, I've heard quite a number of people express, their feelings on how they do not like his performance in the film, how they think he's not good or even terrible. And I don't agree with any of that. I think he's really, really good in the movie. He's acted in a number of things over the years. Even though I think Jordy Verrill is his largest performance. The one where he's got the most screen time, and I think he's fantastic in the film. I can't imagine anybody else being in that role. And you feel for the character. Like, he's convincing in the role. Like, I'm not thinking I'm watching Stephen King. I'm actually seeing Stephen King bring a character to life. I don't see any false notes in his performance. There is a variety of emotion in his performance. Like, I don't know, like, I wish somebody would point out specifically why his performance is bad in this. The Lonesome Death of Jordy Verrill, like, on the surface, at least on the beginning, may seem like the most lighthearted of all the stories, most comedic of all the stories. But then, and it is at first, but as the story goes along, like, it just is like a layer and another layer and another layer. Not big layers, but it's definitely like a layering of heaviness, the layering of the horror of just how really tragic the situation that he's in, his character with touching that meteor, and what happens to his body after he touches the meteor. And it's just like, by the time the story ends, it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking, and it's pretty bleak, and it's definitely one of my favorite stories. I really like all the stories in Creepshow, but The Lonesome Death of Jordy Verrill, I would say, is I don't know, would I say it's my second favorite story? There's another one that I really like a lot, but I just really like this story. And then after The Lonesome Death of Jordy Verrill, you have Something That Tied You Over. This is another story that I love a lot. This one has Ted Danson, Leslie Nielsen, and Galen Ross. This is the first time I saw Leslie Nielsen in a role that wasn't like him in a comedic light. Like, I knew Leslie Nielsen from The Naked Gun and other, comedic stuff. This is the first time I've seen Leslie Nielsen in a serious role. But I was really impressed seeing him in this really dastardly role, and he plays a really, really, really good bad guy, like a fantastic bad guy in this. And Ted Danson, he's great in his role as well. Galen Ross, she's not in it that much, but she shines in the amount of screen time that she has. Something That Tied You Over, just like Father's Day, is a tale where the dead come back from the dead to get their revenge on the living who wronged them. But unlike in Father's Day, these people, you want them to get their revenge. Leslie Nielsen plays such a son of a bitch of a character, and it's great to see him get his just desserts in the end of this tale. The next tale is The Crate, another awesome story in this anthology. And this one stars Hal Holbrook, Fritz Weaver, and Adrienne Barbeau. This particular installment takes place on I think it's a university, a campus, and you have Hal Holbrook. He's he's someone who is stuck in a dead end marriage with Adrienne Barbeau. His wife, basically she just is just overbearing and all of the most annoying and frustrating ways. He wants to get out of the relationship. I'm not sure why he just doesn't divorce her. I wish there was a scene in there like why he simply just doesn't divorce her. Um, I don't know, just like a little scene where maybe like if you ever divorce me, I'll go ahead and I'll take half of, your estate. If you divorce me, I'll kill you. I don't know, something like why he was so afraid of like just leaving her, you know. But yeah, so he's looking for a way out of this marriage, and he decides to get out of this marriage by way of manipulating a monster that he finds. He doesn't initially find a monster. It's his best friend, played by Fritz Weaver. He, along with somebody else, they come across this crate, and this old crate, I think, is from the 19th century, and they open it, and there's a monster inside. He kills the person who he was with when they were opening the crate, and then the monster also kills another person. And Fritz Weaver, of course, is panicking like, holy shit, this creature's on the loose. What am I gonna do? And he tells Hal Holbrook, Hal Holbrook about this, this creature. And you would think that, Hal would be like, anybody, they would hear this tale, they may either think, hey, my friend is nuts, or, if they believe their friend, we gotta do something about this monster. Well, Hal Holbrook doesn't, he doesn't maybe initially fully believe him at first, but he doesn't fully disbelieve him either. And so he goes to investigate, goes to the campus where the monster is at, and he sees that indeed the monster is real. And instead of like, hey, let's try to take this monster out, he says, hey, boy, I could use this to my advantage. And he manages to lure his wife to the campus and uses the monster to take her out. And then he tries to, from that point forward, to do everything to cover up the crime. And the monster's a really memorable looking monster, like great concept in its look, its execution. The monster was created by the effect by Tom Savini. Tom Savini does the effect throughout the entire film, Creepshow, and it's definitely easily one of his best SFX work. Like the makeup work, the effects work, it's fantastic. Yeah, I'm not really sure what else more to say about the crates, but it's another awesome, indelible tale in this in this movie. And so I'm watching it, I'm 4 tales in, watching Creepshow for the first time. But I'm noticing something though while I'm watching it. Like, it is Creepshow, it came on 8 o'clock. I think it may have been, I don't know, it was definitely during the week Creepshow had aired. And I remember that day, I also got some comics that day, actually. And it was just like a good day, like, watching Creepshow for the first time, got comics. One of the comics was, no, 2 of them were like New Mutants. And it was done by, New Mutants, done by Rob Liefeld. I was a big fan of Rob Liefeld back in the day. I really loved his artwork. Rob Liefeld is definitely quite a controversial figure. He's definitely, I don't agree with a lot of what he says or what he's done, but I was a big Rob Liefeld fan of the day of his art, and I still like, some of his art to this day, and yeah, his work on New Mutants, even though it was like on the rougher side, I still like appreciate his artwork from back then. So I remember like watching Creepshow and at the same time reading these early issues of that he did for New Mutants. But as Creepshow was going along, I was like, hey, it's almost 10 o'clock. And I have not seen the one story that I was looking forward to the most, and that was they're creeping up on you. The famous tale, or infamous tale, in Creepshow with the cockroaches. And I was like, wait a minute, they're not gonna have any time to show this story. It's almost 10 o'clock. Like, what's going on? They really gonna cut out the story? And like logically, I knew like they would have to cut something out if this movie's over 2 hours. But like, I don't know, illogically, I thought they were gonna be able to squeeze it in or something. I don't know. So after the crate ended, you know, it went straight to the wraparound story of Creepshow, which has Joe King, Stephen King's son. He plays the son of Tom Atkins. And Tom Atkins in the movie plays this, you know, asshole father who doesn't like his kids reading comic books and goes ahead and throws away, you know, his son's Creepshow comic book, and his, you know, his son vows revenge on his father for throwing out his comics. And also Joe goes ahead and, you know, the son, you know, gets back at his father for being a piece of shit. And then the movie ends. Then I'm like, what the fuck? I was just, and I thought I was having such a good day, you know, and yeah, the movie went off, and I never saw the show, and I never saw the story. They're creeping up on you. The story I was looking forward to the most. Like, I remember, like, just seeing images from they're creeping up on you, particularly like the ghastly imagery. Like, I remember seeing a commercial for Tom Savini's, I think it was Screaming Greats. And inside the commercial for it, they showed scenes from the various films he worked on. And one of the scenes they showed was the cockroaches exploding out of the body of E.G. Marshall, who was the star of They're Creeping on You. And I'm like, whoa. It was like a behind the scenes moment. It wasn't like the actual moment from the film. But I'm like, wow, I can't wait to see that. And I didn't see that when I first saw Creepshow. And I wouldn't see that moment for about 5 years. You know, I didn't see the tale of, you know, They're Creeping on You, and I felt disappointed. Really loved the experience watching Creepshow for the first time, but also was a deflating one. And yeah, like I said, it would be some years if I would see Creepshow again. And it was ultimately, you know, I did get to see, you know, the full unedited version of Creepshow. It was on cable. I did ultimately get to see it, and it was on Showtime. And by this point, I believe I was 17, or on the verge of turning 17. And I was like really excited. Like, finally, I'm gonna see Creepshow like in its R-rated form, and I'm finally gonna be able to see Creepshow, like the Creepshow tale I wanted to see more than any other. They're Creeping Up on You. I remember watching, you know, They're Creeping Up on You, and I just remember just being like freaked like the fuck out by this tale that I had been anticipating for so long. And like, it's just like, it really unnerved me. Like, I can't even think of any horror thing that unnerved me, any horror anything, not a horror video game, not a horror movie, TV show, that nerved me this much as watching the final installment in Creepshow. It was those fucking roaches, man. That fucking just like disturbed the shit out of me. It was just like, you know, I think why other horror tales don't. I mean, horror in general doesn't do anything for me in terms of scares. I haven't been scared by a horror movie since I was 10 years old. I wasn't even watching Alien. I wasn't scared watching Alien. It was like after watching Alien that I was scared. Alien didn't do anything to me at all when I watched it. In terms of like being scared, like, yeah, I found it intense and suspenseful and unsettling, disturbing, but I didn't find it particularly scary. But I remember that night after watching Alien for the first time, or it may have been a couple of nights later, I couldn't go to sleep because I kept thinking about that scene in Alien. Like the final confrontation between the xenomorph and Ripley, and him, like, or it, you know, being outside that ship, you know, after Ripley goes ahead and shoots it with the spear gun, and then just like how it's just like kind of dangling in space and it's desperately trying to get back in, and I don't know, that imagery just haunted me. Eventually I did fall asleep. But yeah, that was the last time horror film like scared me. And again, it wasn't actually watching it scared me, but They're Creeping on You didn't scare me, but it just fully just unsettled me. Like, it got underneath my skin. Like, it, like, I don't know, just like after watching They're Creeping Up on You. Like, I remember for the next day and the day after, like, I was just like getting like paranoid about roaches. Like, and the place we were living at the time did have roaches. It didn't, the place wasn't heavily infested. It was only like a roach here and there from time to time, but it had roaches, and it had roaches particularly in the kitchen. And I remember like, I don't know, it might have been, I don't think that actually that day, but like I remember one time like living in this particular place and opening one of the kitchen drawers where we had the silverware, and it was like roaches. There was like a roach in there. I think it might have been in the silverware or whatever. Like it like just freaked me out, and I don't know, but like I remember thinking about that, like because I'm pretty certain that happened actually beforehand, watching that particular tale of Creepshow. But I remember thinking about that, like opening the kitchen drawer, like I'm gonna find a roach in there. I'm gonna find a roach here. I'm gonna find a roach there. Like I was thinking, like a roach was gonna pop out throughout the whole entire day because of watching They're Creeping Up on You. I was seriously crazy, fucking paranoid that whole day. And then the next day wasn't as bad, but like I was just thinking like roaches are just gonna pop up. Like I remember feeling my skin crawl and all that. Like that, like nothing else I've seen has ever done that to me, before or since. Like I've certainly been disturbed by horror films since then, heavily disturbed, like having certain imagery in my head and all that, but not to the point where I got physically like distressed or discomfort, like feeling like my skin was crawling, feeling paranoid. Like I just never experienced that before or since. And so yes, George Romero, like the genius that he was the only like director to make something that made my skin literally crawl. Um, yeah, They're Creeping Up on You. That definitely is not a tale for everyone, particularly if you have a fear of insects. And I don't have a particular fear of insects, but you know, but like at least not in any like huge way. I think most people to some degree have some, baseline fear of like insects, and maybe more so, not so much the insects themselves, but like their place getting infested, or I don't know, and it an insect like crawling in their ear when they're asleep, or biting them and leaving them with welts, whatever. A normal, somewhat healthy amount of fear towards insects. I don't know. They're Creeping Up on You is to me my favorite tale inside Creepshow. It does exactly what horror is supposed to do. Revulse you to the core. And it's well acted, it's well written, it goes at a very good pace. The characters are memorable, even though there really aren't that many characters. This was another one similar to Something to Tide You Over, where it has a very, very small cast of characters. The only one that you only see, I think only two you see, is E.G. Marshall as Upson Pratt, and David Early as Mr. White. There are two other characters in the story. There is the grieving wife of an employee Upson Pratt had who committed suicide, and there's another person who Upson Pratt talks to in terms of like getting somebody to exterminate the roaches in his apartment. But yeah, it's pretty much a one-man tale for the most part. They're Creeping Up for You, and E.G. Marshall did a magnificent job of just keeping it the story fully engaging from beginning to end. And Tom Savini's SFX in this story is gruesomely great. Yeah, he definitely ends like this story on a high note with his amazing effects and makeup work. George Romero and Stephen King would go on to do other creative collaborations after Creepshow, but there is no question that their first collaboration together is their best one by far. Like, that's not to insult the ones that they did later. They actually did some really good ones later too, but like Creepshow is just the best. Like it's their best collaboration. Creepshow is the best horror anthology movie ever made. It might be the best anthology movie ever made, period. yeah, like Creepshow is just fantastic. You know, it's pretty much a perfect film. I really can't think of any even minor flaws, any real minor flaws with it. It's certainly near perfect for sure. And one of the things that makes it near perfect is John Harrison's score is spectacular. Um, Definitely one of the best scores ever made. Um, a great horror score. Um, One of the best scores ever made for any film. Perfect horror score. Creepshow meets that definition to a T. George Romero and cinematographer Michael Gornick were doing something really novel and innovative with the visual look of the film. Like, um, there was just nothing like it before, and uh, very much like resembled a comic book, like very much like in the same style, at least the spirit of, you know, the wonderful EC comics that the movie was inspired by, but also added its own thing as well, like just its own distinct identity, different from what was done in EC comics. Like, it was very much reminiscent of those comics, but it was also very much its own thing. Um, and it just looks incredible. Like the use of colors, the use of composition, and just like the framework, how they try at times to make it look like a literal comic book brought to life, like with panels and lettering and just everything you would expect a comic book of that time, you know, to look like. Did a great job of replicating that for the screen. Definitely like another distinct, you know, visual masterwork in Romero's body of work, and Michael Gornick's body of work as well. Creepshow is a fun, frightening, fearsome, and fantastic movie that you will not mind creeping up on you.